For the next talk, we have Dr. Narayana Bhatt from KMC. He's an intervention cardiologist. He will be speaking on determination of QRS axis and its importance. Dr. Narayana Bhatt.
Good afternoon, everybody. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Prabhakar and his team for giving me an opportunity to come and speak some thoughts about the electrical QRS axis and voltage criteria for diagnosis of chamber hypertrophy. So, electrical axis, as you all know, is formed because of the depolarization of both the right ventricle and the left ventricle. The mean QRS voltage of the depolarization of these two chambers results in what is called as the mean QRS axis of the human body. So, the net result is a axis, the mean of which is about 59 degrees positive. However, it has got a range in different individuals ranging from minus 30 degrees to plus 90 degrees. So, if there is a deviation of this electrical axis above minus 30 degrees, we call it as left axis deviation, or if there is a deviation to plus 90 degrees or more, we call it as right axis deviation. There is also called as extreme right axis deviation, or also called as the northwest axis, where the axis deviation is beyond plus 180 degrees. However, it is quite rare phenomenon. So, the basis of this identification of this electrical axis is, as Subramaniam has told, is based upon the nth of 1's triangle and the limb leads, where lead 1 forms the base, the lead 3 and lead 2 are the right and left hand sides of this triangle. So, all the leads together along with the augmented leads that he has spoken about will form an electrical axis of the heart, which we have to remember mentally in our mind to identify the electrical axis of the particular person based upon the ECG. So, you require the 6 limb leads to identify the electrical axis of the individual. So, the normal axis, as I told, is ranging from minus 30, which is formed by the AVL lead, to the plus 90 degrees, which is formed by the AVF. So, this is in general the normal axis, and AVR and lead 3 form the abnormal axis and right axis deviations. So, how do you estimate the axis of the particular ECG? So, a simple rule is helpful. So, we can identify the 4 quadrants into which the axis belongs instead of pinpointing the axis accurately at the bedside of the patient. So, how to do it? You can take 2 leads. There are several methods available. One of the methods is the following, which I am telling you, that is lead 1 and AVF. If lead 1 and AVF are both towards the positive deflection, then it is the normal axis, that is the right lower quadrant. If lead 1 is positive and AVF is predominantly negative, usually that means patient has left axis deviation. And if lead 1 is predominantly negative and AVF has got predominantly positive deflection, that means patient is likely to be having the left lower quadrant, that is the right axis deviation. That is where the electrical axis will lie. And the extreme right axis or the northwest axis will be there when both 1 and AVF will be having negative deflection. In such an ECG, you will find that the AVR, instead of being negative deflection, will be showing a positive deflection predominantly. Coming back to the previous slide, in a rule of thumb, you can also use a single lead also to identify where the axis belongs. That is, if the predominant R wave is in the lead AVL, that is the height of the R wave in AVL is more than the lead 1 and other particular leads, then it is likely that patient is having a left axis deviation. So, if the predominant R wave is in lead 2, then definitely compared to the other leads, then definitely patient is having a normal range of QRS axis. If the predominant R wave, the height that is of lead 3 is much more than AVF or other leads, definitely that means the axis is towards the right side. Or if the predominant R wave is present in AVR, which never has really a big R wave, then that means the patient has northwest axis. So this is also a rule of thumb, a simple equation which can be used in at least 90% of individuals, it found to be right. So these are the two simple methods of finding out the correct QRS axis based upon the particular quadrants. One more method which is used is based upon the isoelectric QRS. So in this particular ECG, in the limb leads, lead AVL is showing the almost isoelectric, where R wave is slightly more than the S wave, whereas the other limb leads do not show much of a S wave. So the lead which is perpendicular, that is at 90 degrees to the particular isoelectric or biphasic QRS, will be the direction of the QRS axis. So in this, if AVL is having a particular biphasic lead, then the perpendicular lead to that is lead 2, and that is around 60 degrees, which is the normal axis of the patient. So in this particular ECG, you can see that taking the two things into consideration, the lead 2 height of the R wave is more than the lead 2, and it is also more than AVF, saying that this is belongs to the right lower quadrant, and that is the normal axis for the patient. So the other method which I told is using lead 1 and AVF. Lead 1 QRS is positive and AVF QRS is also positive. So that means when both are positive, the quadrant is right lower, which is the normal axis. So let us see how it works out for the right axis deviation. In this particular ECG, you can see the height of the QRS, that is predominantly the R wave, is the maximum in lead 3, and it is more than the next neighboring lead, that is AVF. So height of this R wave is lead 3, and it is more than even other leads also. So naturally, by using single lead, you can estimate that it is belongs to the left lower quadrant, that is right axis deviation. If you take lead 1 and AVF method, in that also you can see that lead 1 is predominantly negative and AVF is predominantly positive. So in such a case, as we have discussed, it belongs to the right axis deviation. In this, you can see the right ventricular hypertrophy in lead V1, where the height of R wave is about 10 millimeters or more. There is abnormal T wave inversions in V1, V2. I will discuss about it later. But what I want to focus is on the right axis deviation in with this, where the lead 3 is again showing the height of the R wave, which is the highest among all the limb leads, and it is more than its neighboring leads of lead 2 and AVF, which is here. And if you take lead 1 and AVF also, in which case lead 1 is predominantly negative and AVF is positive, showing that it is right axis deviation. Coming to left axis deviation, in this category, the predominant R wave will be in lead AVL. It will be more than that of lead 1, which is its neighboring lead. And in this, you can confirm that it is AVL is more than lead 1 and more than all the other limb leads. So definitely the axis is left axis. So if you use the other method, then also you can see the lead 1 is predominantly positive and AVF is predominantly negative. So it belongs to the right upper quadrant, which is again left axis deviation. In some ECGs, rarely there is no clear cut R waves which are, or the S wave which are dominant, in which case you may not be able to determine the axis. In northwest axis, AVR will have the highest increase in the R wave, and it is more than any other height of the R waves in the limb leads. And in this ECG, you can see that height of R wave is the highest in AVR, and both lead 1 is negative and AVF also is negative, putting it into the northwest or the extreme right axis deviation. Pardon? Yes. In case of dextrocardia with situs solitus, the P waves will be upright, but the progression of the QRS will be in the opposite direction. That is from V1 to V6 there is reverse progression. The height of the R waves will be more in V1, but definitely just by looking at it, this will be only one of the differential diagnosis, because it will even in right ventricular hypertrophy in particular patients you can have the R wave more than height of S wave, and just by looking at this you cannot clearly say that it is right axis. However, if there is a P wave inversion in lead 1 and AVL along with the reverse progression of the R waves from V1 to V6, then you can say that yes, there is both situs inversus. Situs inversus indirectly, it means atria are inverted. The P waves, when they are inverted in lead 1 and AVL, that indicates that atria have inverted. And when you say the reverse progression of the QRS is present in V1 to V6, that means the ventricles are in the inverted position. That is, left is more toward on the right side and right ventricle is more on the left side. So these are two features which will help to identify whether atria is inverted and whether ventricle is inverted. And whenever atria is inverted, usually that is means the situs is also inverted. So what are the causes of axis deviation? Sometimes you can have a normal variation of right axis deviation, but more importantly, when you have right axis deviation, you have to think about other things which needs to be ruled out, that is right ventricular pressure overload, right ventricular volume overload, cor pulmonale, pulmonary embolisms, or pulmonary stenosis. These are the common conditions where you can get right axis deviation. Other less common entities may be extensive infarctions of the lateral wall, dextrocardia, left-sided pneumothorax pushing the heart towards the right side, or left posterior hemiblocks. Left axis deviation, on the other hand, can also be a normal variant in a small group of individuals, but more importantly, when there is left axis deviation, you should think about myocardial infarction, left anterior fascicular block or hemiblock, hypertrophy of the left ventricle, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, and dilated cardiomyopathy. These are the common causes of left axis deviation. So this is an example of left axis deviation with the right bundle branch block. The right bundle branch block we will discuss later. Briefly, what I want to say is, in right bundle branch block you will have a wide QRS in V1 of more than 120 milliseconds duration, and there is a wide S wave in lead V6 and lead AVL, and there is RS R dash pattern in lead V1. That apart, more importantly, the left axis deviation, what I want to show is that in left axis deviation, lead AVL should have the highest R wave, and you can see that height of R wave is maximum in lead AVL compared to other leads, and it is predominantly a positive deflection in 1 and negative deflection in AVF. In case of LBBB with left axis, you will have a broad QRS in lead 1, AVL, V5 and V6 along with the T wave inversions, and there is a prominent QRS in lead AVL compared to all other leads, confirming left axis deviation. Coming to conditions where you can get low voltage complexes. Low voltage by definition means that the voltage is less than 5 millimeters in the limb leads, that is maximum limb leads, not necessarily each and every one. Majority of the limb leads will show less than 5 millimeters, 1 or 2 misses may be there, and in case of precordial leads less than 10 millimeter voltage will be seen. So the common causes include obesity, myxedema, COPD patients, but the classical teaching is large pericardial effusion. So this is an example where you can see that all the voltages are much less compared to the normal. Especially you can appreciate it in the limb leads where very low voltages are seen. This is another example where patient has infarction, extensive, resulting in effusion, and there is associated small QRS complexes. Poor R wave progression of less than 3 millimeter duration is seen in lead V3, and the most common causes include the anterior wall MI and COPD. Less commonly you can see it in LBBB, dextrocardia, and low diaphragmatic position or high electrode positioning. So you can see in this example that lead V1, V2 and V3 hardly have any R waves, and only in V4 the R waves are clearly formed, which indicates a poor R wave progression usually seen in COPD and sometimes in evolved myocardial, anti-revolved myocardial infarction. This is again another example of COPD patient which is having poor R wave progression. Chamber hypertrophy. I will quickly go through the chamber hypertrophy. The left atrial enlargement is said to be present if P wave is very broad and notched and the width is more than 120 milliseconds, and it is inverted, terminal portion of the P wave is inverted in V1. Here you can see there is terminal inversion of P wave in V1 and there is a broad P waves in lead 2, an example of mitral stenosis where you get this kind of enlargement. Right atrial enlargement commonly seen in cor pulmonale, you can have tall peaked P waves in inferior leads of more than 2.5 mm in size, and the positive component of P wave is also predominant in V1. Here you can see prominent peaked P wave in lead 2 helping us to diagnose cor pulmonale. However, V1 is not showing clear cut such feature. So when both the criteria are met, you can say a patient has biatrial enlargement, may be seen in mitral stenosis with hypertrophied right atrium secondary to pulmonary artery hypertension. In right ventricular hypertrophy, the classical finding is the R wave height has suddenly increased. Normally it is very minuscule in lead V1, and when its height becomes more than S wave, it means that right ventricle is hypertrophied and its height is usually more than 5 mm. Or if there is a RS R dash pattern in V1, then R dash size will be more than 10 mm. Third feature we can use is the use of right axis deviation to identify right ventricular hypertrophy. And the fourth criteria which we can use, it is not necessary that all these criteria should be present in one person, any one of them may be present. And the fourth criteria is R in V1 plus S wave in V5 or V6 is 11 mm or more. So this is an example of right ventricular hypertrophy where in V1 you can see that height is more than 10 mm in length. Left ventricular hypertrophy on the other hand, based upon the Sokolos criteria, where the amplitude of S wave in V1 and R wave in V5 or V6 is more than 35 mm, or you can use the second criteria, that is R wave height in AVL is more than 11 mm. Less commonly you can use the Cornell's criteria, where 20 mm height of the S plus R in V3 and AVL is seen in females, whereas it is 28 mm in males. This is an example where there is V5 and V6. So by Sokolos criteria, there is at least 20 to 25 mm increase in the R wave height in V5, V6, plus the height of S wave. If you add, it will come to about 40-45 mm, indicating left ventricular hypertrophy. And both the criteria may be present in the same patient, we can say there is biventricular hypertrophy. This is an example of an ECG where is right atrial enlargement in the form of tall P waves. There is right ventricular hypertrophy here in the form of R more than S, and there is a right axis deviation where lead 3 has the highest height of the R waves. And this is an example of left atrial enlargement where there is the inverted P is seen in lead V1 and the hypertrophy is there in V5 and V6, plus some secondary STT changes due to hypertrophy is seen in this particular ECG. Thank you. Any questions?
One question is, while calculating the voltage for low voltage and high voltage, 5 mm, while calculating the voltage for either low or high voltage, calculating from the baseline or total R plus S?
Total.
One question is, while calculating the voltage for low voltage and high voltage, 5 mm, while calculating the voltage for either low or high voltage, calculating from the baseline or total R plus S?
Total. It is total. Thank you.
By looking at the lead 1 and lead 3,
Pardon, sir?
R wave in lead 1 and lead 3, looking at these 3 leads only, can you say that left axis or right axis? If QRS complex is longer in lead 1, we can say it is left axis. Lead 3, if QRS complex is longer in lead 3, we can say right
Yes,
axis.
yes.
By
Just
doing
beside
grounds
that
and
is-
all, doing grounds in the ward and all, we cannot calculate with reference system and all.
Correct.
Can you say
Yes,
on the
yes, that
these
is
two?
that is why I told the single lead method, which becomes
Yes, lead 1 and lead 3. sir.
usually it is accurate in 90% of the cases. If lead 3 is showing the maximum height of R wave,
You can say
then it's
right axis.
If AVL is showing maximum height, that means left axis.
Thank you, sir.
If in between it is showing, then it is not.